Yeah, now we are live, Guru Maharaj, on your page.
It says
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
preparing to live stream. Looks like it's working so far.
It's working, Guru Maharaj. You're already live, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. Preparing to live stream. But I have to turn it off for myself, right? Otherwise.
You're already live. You can start now, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, but I have to turn off.
Yeah, you turn it off. You clear. You cancel the page in which it's on live. You just cancel it. Then it's okay.
It's still on. I just cancel it for myself. Okay.
Yes,
so bookmark is chapter 21, text 37, instructions by Prithu, which is towards the end of that chapter very much. Very near the end of the chapter. So we're just finishing Prithu instructing his citizens. And there's only, well, there's 52 verses. 52, so we have a long way to go. Okay, so who will read first?
I can read first, Guru Maharaj, if you want. So, the Brahmana, the Brahmanas and Vaishnava are personally glorified by their characteristics, powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. Purport. Prithu Maharaj has explained in the previous verse the importance of devotional service for both the rulers and the citizens of the state. Now he explains how one can be steadily fixed in devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, has compared devotional service of the Lord with a creeper. A creeper has a feeble stem and requires the support of a tree to grow. While growing, it requires sufficient protection so that it may not be lost. While describing the system of protection for the creeper of devotional service, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has especially stressed protection from offenses onto the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. Such offenses are called Vaishnava Aparad. Aparad means offense. If one commits Vaishnava Aparadas, all of his progress in devotional service will be checked. Even though one is very much advanced in devotional service, if he commits offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava, his advancement is all spoiled. In the Shastra, it is found that a very great yogi, Duvasamoni, committed a Vaishnava aparad, and thus, for 1 full year, had to travel all over the universe, even to Vaikuntha, to defend himself from the offense. At last, even when he approached the Supreme Personality of God in Vaikuntha, he was refused protection. Therefore, one should be very careful about committing offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava. The most grievous type of Vaishnava aparad is called Guruva Parada, which refers to the offense at the lotus feet of the spiritual master. In the chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Guruva Parada is considered the most grievous offense. It's considered to be most grievous offense. Oh, where is it? Sorry, Guru Maharaj, getting jumped.
The end of the purport?
No. I lost I lost where I was. It jumped. It's considered the most grievous offense. Guru Bhavagya Shruti Shastra Nidanam Padma Puran. Among the 10 offenses committed against the chanting of the holy name, the first offenses are disobedience of the spiritual master, and blasphemy of the Vedic literature. The simple definition of Vaishnava is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A person who immediately reminds one of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is a Vaishnava. In this verse, both Vaishnavas and Brahmana are mentioned. A Vaishnava is a learned Brahmana and is therefore designated as Brahmana Vaishnava. Brahmana Pandita, or as a Vaishnava and Brahmana. In other words, a Vaishnava is supposed to be a Brahmana already, but a Brahmana may not be a pure Vaishnava. When a person understands his pure identity, Brahmajanati, he immediately becomes a Brahmana. In the Brahmana stage, once his understanding of the Supreme Personality of God is mainly based on impersonal view. When a Brahmana, however, rises to the platform of personal understanding of the Supreme Godhead, it becomes a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is transcendental even to a Brahmana. In the material world, in the material conception, the position of a Brahmana is the highest in human society, but a Vaishnava is transcendental in Brahmana. Both the Brahmana and a Brahmana's qualifications are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as truthfulness, mental equanimity, control of senses, the power of tolerance, simplicity, knowledge of the absolute truth, firm faith in the scripture, and practical application of the Brahmanical qualities in life. In addition to all these qualifications, when one fully engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, it becomes a Vaishnava. Prithu Maharaj wants his citizens who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord to take care against offenses to the Brahmana and Vaishnavas. Offenses at their lotus feet are so destructive that even the descendants of Yadu, who were born in the family of Lord Krishna, were destroyed due to the offenses at their feet. The Supreme Personality of God cannot tolerate any offense at the lotus feet of a Brahmana and Vaishnavas. Sometimes, due to their powerful position, princes or governments serve and neglect the position of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, not knowing that because of their offense, they will be ruined. Hare Krishna.
All right.
So let's go, Maharaj.
We've had, individual fall downs and trouble in general, mostly because of Vaishnava Aparad. We take devotees for granted, we become familiar, overly familiar, and we lose not respectful, and it's dangerous. So, like in marriage, I remember, somebody told me when I was married, your wife is a Vaishnava. And I hadn't thought of it like that, my wife, but you should think Krishna's devotee. That's why I encourage grihasthas should always have tilak at home, especially. So you see each other as devotees. So there's different types of Vaishnava Aparad, and I'm just going to check it out here. There's Dushkrit Tota,
Yes, please.
arising from sinful activities committed in previous life. And Sukrit Tota, arising from pious or religious activities performed previously. And Aparada Hota, specifically from offenses committed in chanting the holy name. So some of these are easy to avoid. Killing or causing physical harm to a devotee is one type of offense. Bhakti Vinod Thakur gave us 6 different kinds. Blasphemer criticizing a devotee is difficult because Kali Yuga conditioning is fault finding. Bhakti Tirtha stressed on that we might come to Krishna consciousness because we're finding fault with mundane society, we're finding fault with materialistic life, we're finding fault with materialistic people. But if we come into Krishna association of devotees, could have one of those pieces of bread also, and we don't give up that fault finding radar, then because we're associating with devotees, we'll start finding fault with them. And then we have a lot of difficulty. Then the first symptom is you lose your taste for chanting. It becomes difficult to chant japa. And we start blaming devotees for our trouble. We don't take responsibility, that it's our own fault. Then harboring malice or being envious of a devotee. That's something that, holding a grudge, it's called in America. This devotee offended me, this devotee did something, I'll sue him, I'll take him to court, I'll show everybody that I'm the savior of the world by getting rid of this man. This is very dangerous. Failing to properly offer obeisances or greet a devotee when you see them. And that means any devotee. Nowadays I see, I'm thinking, well, should I pay obeisances or should I wait? I'm senior, maybe he should pay obeisances to me first. And, mind goes crazy. But we have to greet a devotee when we see them and pay obeisances. Even if we don't actually bow down in the street, at least we can bow the head, fold the hands. Becoming angry with the devotee. These are different types of Vaishnava aparad. We have to watch out. And then those are a little bit, easy to do, especially physically harming or killing a devotee. We won't do that. We're very unlikely to do that. But blaspheming, criticizing, being angry, envious. Why is he the temple president? I should be the temple president. I've been here longer than him. Blah, 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 blah. Why did she marry this guy? I wanted to marry him. I'm better, Then, but the number 6, this one is really difficult. Not feeling joy or happiness upon seeing a pure devotee. Of course, we can say, well, a pure devotee, that's only Prabhupada or only Narada Muni or only the Guru. But it means any devotee, anyone who's dedicating his life. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur emphasizes that while ordinary sins affect the body, aparad damages the very soul and severely obstructs one's spiritual progress. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also cautioned against associating with pseudo-devotees and unauthorized sects, the 13 Apasampradayas, as a primary cause of falling into these offenses. If you would like to explore practical ways to avoid these offenses or dive into the 4 classifications of devotees as discussed by the Thakur, let me know and we'll proceed. 4 classes of devotees. Shuddha Vaishnava, pure devotee, unmotivated devotion, Uttama Bhakti, completely free from desire for mental speculation. Vaishnava Praya, like a devotee. Individuals who show external symptoms of devotion possess initial faith, but hearts are contaminated by material desires or philosophical misconceptions. Vaishnava Abhasa, reflection of a devotee. People who occasionally display devotional qualities, or chant the holy name with an obscured reflective shadow of true faith for superficial or material benefit. Like somebody chanting to get money or something. And then the Upasampradaya, those Sahajas, members of unauthorized sects who misrepresent the philosophy. Bhakti Vinod warned that associating with them causes severe spiritual degradation. To avoid Vaishnava Parad, cultivate Trinadapi Sune Trina, practice intense humility, think of yourself lower than the grass and offer all respect. See beyond its external defects. Never could a devotee on their material lineage or what tribe they come from, or past sins, or accidental fall downs, or sickness, or deformities. Control your speech, avoid gossip and blasphemy. If you hear criticism of a devotee, immediately leave that place or defend that devotee. But a lot of times defending devotee, the people who blaspheme him get really angry that that's not true, they're no good, and they blaspheme more. So it's better to run away. Serve advanced devotees, serve all devotees, offer immediate apologies if you accidentally offend a devotee, throw away your pride. Okay, Hare Krishna. So very important instruction, and we need to stress. We can't, at the same time, we have to point out, if something's really off, but we have to do it in a humble state of mind, to try to correct someone who's wrong, not just blaspheme them and tell the whole world, Okay. Any other comment?
Not mine.
You can look that up online if you want to study it or give a seminar. Okay, read the next verse, somebody.
Let's do mine. Kamalash Prabhu, you want to read, please? Next verse.
Hare Krishna, the text, please.
Next text is 38.
Okay. 38. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient, eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe, by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Purport. The Supreme Person is described herein as Brahmanya Deva. Brahmanya refers to the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas or the Brahmanical culture, and Deva means worshipable Lord. Therefore, unless one is on the transcendental platform of being a Vaishnava or on the highest platform of material goodness as a Brahmana, he cannot appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the lower stages of ignorance and passion, it is difficult to appreciate or understand the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord is described herein as the worshipful deity for persons in the Brahmanical and Vaishnava culture. Namo Brahmanaya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Vishnu Purana 1:1965. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the prime protector of Brahmanical culture and the cow. Without knowing and respecting this, one cannot realize the science of God. And without this knowledge, any welfare activities or humanitarian propaganda cannot be successful. The Lord is Purusha, or the supreme enjoyer. Not only is he the enjoyer when he appears as a manifested incarnation, but he is the enjoyer since time immemorial. From the very beginning, Puratana and eternally Nityam. Yag Charaba Bivadanat. Pitu Maharaj said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead attained this opulence of eternal fame simply by worshipping the lotus feet of the Brahmanas. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord does not need to work to achieve material gain, since he is perpetually supremely perfect. He does not need to obtain anything. But still, it is said that he obtained his opulence by worshipping the lotus feet of the Brahmanas. These are his exemplary actions. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Dwarka, he offered his respects by bowing down at the lotus feet of Narada. When Sudama Vipra came to his house, Lord Krishna personally washed his feet and gave him a seat on his personal bed. Although he is the supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna offered his respects to Maharaj Yudhishthira and Kunti. The Lord's exemplary behavior is to teach us. We should learn from his personal behavior how to give protection to the cow, how to cultivate Brahmanical qualities, and how to respect the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Yayad acharati sustas tatad eva taro jana. If the leading personalities behave in a certain manner, others follow them automatically. Who can be more of a leading personality than the supreme personality of Godhead? And whose behavior could be more exemplary? It is not that he needed to do a he needed to do a he needed to do a distance to acquire material gain, but of these acts were performed just to teach us how to behave in this material world. The supreme personality of Godhead is described herein as Mahatma Agani. Within this material world, the Mahatmas or great personalities are Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, but is above them as Narayan, Paro Vyaktat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is in transcendental position above everything created within this material world. His opulence, his riches, his beauty, his wisdom, his knowledge, his renunciation, and his reputation are all Jagad Pavitram, universally purifying. The more we discuss his opulence, the more the universe becomes purer and purer. In the material world, the opulences possessed by a material person are never fixed. Today, one may be a very rich man, and tomorrow he may become poor. Today, one is very famous, but tomorrow he may be infamous. Materially obtained opulence are never fixed, but all these opulences perpetually exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only in the spiritual world, but also in the material world. Lord Krishna's reputation is fixed, and his book of wisdom, Bhagavad Gita, is still honored. Everything pertaining to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally existing. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Wow.
Krishna.
Okay. Let's hear something about it. Master,
Here,
every one of them.
here it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his opulences, his opulences are unlimited and it's fixed. In contrast to the opulences of the ordinary material jiva. The material jiva can be rich today and be poor tomorrow. Sometimes can be famous today and infamous the other day. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is always fixed. He never goes down. He never becomes infamous. He never becomes poor. All his opulences are fixed. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else want to comment?
Yes, Gumara, it's surprising to hear because Krishna is self-sufficient and also is the origin of everything. But here is mentioned how he attained his reputation and opulences by worshiping the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. To show the importance given to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. If the Supreme Lord can worship that for this, so it shows that Brahmana and Vaishnavas are worshipable for everyone. So if we are able, like the previous verse is mentioned, offenses to Vaishnavas and Brahmanas can destroy our life. Worshipping them can give us everything in life also, like that. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Anyway, it's a warning. There's many statements that said, I don't fear anything. I don't fear any kind of danger except offending a devotee.
Yes,
From great personality. So we have to be very careful. If we examine the history, we can understand how much difficulty our movements had because we fight with each other. Okay. Any more comment or we move on?
Anybody want to comment? If not, is Grace Salika Prabhu, you can read the next verse.
Salik might not be there.
Okay. So, Rasaman Prabhu, please.
Okay. Text 39. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. For he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. It is said that the Lord is most pleased when he sees one engaged in the service of his devotee. He does not need any service from anyone because he is complete. But it is in our own interest to offer all kinds of services to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These services can be offered to the Supreme Person not directly, but through the service of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Shri Narottam Das Thakur sings, Jadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Prayeche Keba, which means that unless one serves the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, one cannot get liberation from the material clutches. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yasya Prashadad Bhagavat Prashadaha. By satisfying the senses of the spiritual master, one can satisfy the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, his behavior is not only mentioned in scriptures, but also followed by acharyas. Prithu Maharaj advised his citizens to follow the exemplary behavior of the Supreme of the Lord himself, and thus engage in the service of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We want to say something?
Okay. It's quite explicit here, and this is what we have been doing. But these verses this verse is putting much emphasis on the fact that one cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. So to please the Lord, one must serve his devotees. To please the Lord, one must serve his devotees. And we must engrave in our consciousness in this particular injunction that to please the Lord, one must serve his devotees, particularly the spiritual master. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Am I going to say something, or we can continue?
Go ahead.
Krishna Prabhu, please. Can read the next verse. 40.
What verse now?
Text 40, Guru Maharaj, text 40. Krishna Prabhu, we are not hearing you. Anybody hear him? I'm not hearing him from my side.
I'm not hearing him.
I am not hearing also.
Krishna Prabhu, something is wrong with your mic. While we are waiting for you to adjust your mic, Madhavan Prabhu, please, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the debts from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, but this can bring pleasure to the demigods for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Prasade Sabha Dukanam Ana Asyo Pachayate. That's Bhagavad Gita 2:65. Unless one is self-satisfied, he cannot be free from the miserable conditions of material existence. Therefore, it is essential to render service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to achieve the perfection of self-satisfaction. Srila Narottama Das Thakur therefore says, Chandira Kranan Sevi Bhakta Sane Vasa Jarane Jama Janane Aya E Abi Lasa. Birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas and live in a society of devotees. A spiritual atmosphere can be maintained only by living in a society of devotees and by serving the orders of the acharyas. The spiritual master is the best Brahmana. At present, in the age of Kali, it is very difficult to render service to the Brahmana Kula or the Brahmana class. The difficulty, according to Vahara Purana, is that demons, taking advantage of Kali Yuga, have taken birth in Brahmana families. Rakshasa, Kalim, Asritya, Jayante Brahma, Yonisu, Vara Purana. In other words, in this age, there are in this, please just a minute. In this, in other words, in this age, there are many so-called caste Brahmanas and caste Goswami who taking advantage of the Shastra and of the innocence of people in general, claim to be Brahmanas and Vaishnavas by hereditary right. One will not derive any benefits by rendering service to such false Brahmana Kulas. One must therefore take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and its associates and should also render service to them. For such activity will greatly help the neophyte in attaining full satisfaction. This has been very clearly explained by Tilavisha Nata Chakravarti Thakur in his explanation of the verse Vyavasa Yatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kuru Nandana. That's Bhagavad Gita 241. By actually following the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga recommended by Srila Naratuma Dasa Thakur, one can very quickly come to the transcendental platform of liberation, as explained in this verse. Atyanta Samam, the particular use of word Anand Velam without delay is very significant because simply by serving Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can get liberation. There is no need to undergo severe penances and austerities. The vivid example of this is Narada Muni himself. In his previous birth, he was simply a maid servant's son, but he got the opportunity to serve exalted Brahmanas and Vaishnava, and thus, in his next life, he not only became liberated, but became famous as the supreme spiritual master of the entire Vaishnava disciplic procession. According to the Vedic system, therefore, it is customarily recommended that after performing a ritualistic ceremony, one should feed the Brahmanas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please,
Thank you. What is
please, I have to attend to something very urgent now. So,
okay, please go ahead. Masala Babu want to say something regarding the proper right.
Who's that? Who's speaking? Who wants to speak?
Yeah, Babu say he has to attend to something and say whether anybody want to respond. So Rasaba Babu want to respond.
Okay. Here, much emphasis is being laid on the nature of the Brahmana, service to the Brahmanas. And we are want to be very careful in this Kali Yuga of self-imposed Brahmanas, those who are Brahmanas by hereditary. You should be very careful of them. So the best way for one to be freed of this entanglement is to focus. I think that is why even Krishna consciousness is established by Srila Prabhupada. Within the Krishna consciousness movement, we associate with the spiritual master and those in the service of the spiritual master. So that saves us from falling prey to serving fake Brahmanas. So this is one point I would like to stress.
Thank you, Babu. Anybody else want to say something regarding the report? Actually, what I would just say is that, again, just like Papa said, yeah, Preacher Maharaj just glorifying the service to the Brahmana. Yeah, saying the benefits of what is Supreme Lord also benefit from serving the Brahmana because it's become more polarity and all those things. Here he's saying also by serving the Brahmana, the death in the heart, and one become purified and enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied in this world. So by serving Vaishnava or Brahmanas, one can actually, what it means is that one can achieve all desires. One can avoid miserable existence of life. So this is very, very important to understand. Yes. Prabhupada quoted Narodam Sakut. Tadera Charana Sevi Bhakta Saneva Janame Janame Hoy Avilas. Bet after bet, I desire to serve the lotus feet of Acharya and live in the society of devotees. Don't I want to say something?
No,
Okay.
I
Kamala
want
Prabhu?
others to speak.
Okay, good Maharaj. So, anybody want to say something? If not, we'll go to the next verse. Kamalasha Prabhu want to say something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, that's what
One point of I want to stress here is that the material existence is made of different social groupings. We could see how we were born into our families. Then at the time we were put into school, we have another grouping, our schoolmates and all those things. After school, we work. So we got into another group. And this separation from one group and then building up another group is going on. But when one get the hint of spiritual life, we join the Krishna consciousness movement, which is another grouping. And then in the face of all the groupings, this is the most beneficial grouping for the living entity. Here you'll be associating with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, as it is said, and then your life become gradually purified. So I think the grace by which we have come into this movement, we must be very, 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 very cognizant of this grace and then hold on very firmly to it. Some come into this movement of spiritual environment and then they leave, which is the most unfortunate situation. So we who are practicing this spiritual life, and then we are having Hare Krishna.
Right. Okay. The last sentence is after performing ritualistic ceremony, one should feed the brahmanas. Okay. Number 41.
Yes, good Maharaj. Kamalaja Prabhu, please you read the next one.
Okay. Text
Thank you,
41.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ananta eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names
Thank
of the different demigods, it does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as it does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees. For them, he does not leave the association of devotees. Purport. According to
Just
Vedic injunctions,
comment on that. A
Maharaj,
lot
okay,
of Hindus,
yes.
they know this, and so they're very happy to sponsor prasadam, like on Sunday. I don't know if you're still doing it. Ganachak was president. He had every Sunday, somebody sponsoring, so you could have really nice prasadam every week. Because Hindu people especially, they know the benefit of feeding the brahmanas, feeding devotees. Okay? So, and same thing for food for life. they consider feeding the poor like topmost religious activity. So, but feeding the workers to feed the poor is also part of it. So it can cover all BOGA costs by having food for life. And at the same time, purify the palate, because so many people eating prasadam, they get purified.
Baba, you want to comment on that, or you want to read the purport? Come on, let's move.
Okay, I want to read the purport.
Okay.
Should I continue?
Please. Yes, please go ahead.
According to
Continue.
Vedic injunctions, a fire sacrifice is held in order to give food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the name of the different demigods. While performing the fire sacrifice, one pronounces the word Swaha in mantras such as Indraya Swaha and Aditya Swaha. These mantras are uttered to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead through demigods such as Indra and Aditya. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Naham Tistami Vakunte Yoginam Hide Suva Tatra Tistami Narada Yatra Gayanti Mar Bhakta. I am not in Vaikuntha, nor in the hearts of the yogis. I remain where my devotees engage in glorifying activities. It is to be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not leave the company of his devotees. Fire is certainly devoid of life, but devotees and brahmanas are the living representatives of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, to feed brahmanas and Vaishnavas is to feed the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. It may be concluded that instead of offering fire sacrifice, one should offer foodstuffs to brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for the process is more effective than fire yagya. The vivid example of this principle in action was given by Advaita Prabhu. When he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. It is a practice that after finishing the Shraddha ceremony, one should offer food to an elevated Brahmana. But Advaita Prabhu offered food first to Haridas Thakur, who had taken his birth in a Muhammadan family. Therefore, Haridas Thakur asked Advaita Prabhu why he was doing something which might jeopardize his position in Brahmana society. Advaita Prabhu replied that he was feeding millions of first-class Brahmanas by offering the food to Haridas Thakur. He was prepared to talk with any learned Brahmanas on this point and proved definitely that by offering food to a pure devotee like Haridas Thakur, he was equally as blessed as he would have been by offering food to thousands of learned Brahmanas. When performing sacrifice, one offers oblations to the sacrificial fire, but when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu want to say something?
Yes. So
Please.
here we see in the purport here, Prabhupada explained the importance of yes, wherever devotees gather and chant the holy names of the Lord is automatically present in that very particular vicinity. And also, Srila Prabhupada highlights the importance of feeding the brahmanas as more important than offering of oblations to the fire. Of course, the fire represents the feeding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is true fire. But when the brahmanas are being fed, automatically the Supreme Lord becomes more happier. And this is exemplified by how uh, Haridas Thakur was being fed by Advaita Acharya. And even though Harida Sako was trying to ask him not to do so, he was prepared to defend his actions because he knew very well that by feeding a devotee, a first-class devotee, a first-class Brahmana, pure devotee, the Supreme Lord automatically becomes very, very satisfied. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Uma, you want to say something?
No?
Okay, Uma. So, Madhava Prabhu, are you there now? Good. Want to read the next verse? Or read it? Madhava Prabhu, are you there?
Madhuvan, you are muted. You are muted. Unmute first.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So text 41.
You're supposed to read text
42.
number 42.
42, okay. Okay. In the Brahmanical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunction of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, and scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated just as one's face in a clear mirror is fully reflected. Purport. It is described in the previous verse that feeding a living Brahmana is more effective than offering oblations in a fire sacrifice. In this verse, it is now clearly described what Brahmanism is and who is a Brahmana is. In the age of Kali, taking advantage of the fact that by feeding a Brahmana, one obtains a more effective result than performing sacrifices. A class of men with no Brahminical qualifications claim the eating privilege known as Brahmana Bhojana simply on the basis of their births in Brahmana families. In order to distinguish this class of men from the real Brahmanas, Maharaj Prithu is given an exact description of a Brahmana and Brahminical culture. One should not take advantage of its position simply to live like a fire without light. A Brahmana must be fully conversant with the Vedic conclusion, which is described in Bhagavad Gita. Vilasya Savai Ahamiva Vedyaha. That's Bhagavad Gita 15:15. The Vedic conclusion, the ultimate understanding, or Vedanta's understanding, is knowledge of Krishna. Actually, that's a fact because simply by understanding Krishna as he is, as described in Bhagavad Gita, one becomes a perfect Brahmana. The Brahmana who knows Krishna perfectly well is always in a transcendental position. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mam cha avyavikarina bhakti yogina sevate ta gunan samati chaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service and who does not fall down in any circumstance at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma. That's Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Therefore, a devotee of Lord Krishna is actually a perfect Brahman. His situation is transcendental, for he is free from the four defects of conditional life. which are the tendencies to commit mistakes, to be illusioned, to cheat, and to possess imperfect senses. A perfect Vaishnava or Krishna conscious person is always in this transcendental position because he speaks according to Krishna and is representative. Because Vaishnavas speak exactly according to the tune of Krishna, whatever they say is free from these four defects. For example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that everyone should always think of him. Everyone should become his devotee, offering him obeisances and worshiping. And ultimately, everyone should surrender unto him. These devotional activities are transcendental and free from mistakes, illusion, cheating, and imperfection. Therefore, anyone who is a sincere devotee of Lord Krishna, and who preaches this cult, speaking only on the basis of Krishna's instructions, is understood to be the Viraja, or free from the defects of material contamination. A genuine Brahmana or Vaishnava, therefore, depends eternally on the conclusion of the Vedas, or Vedic versions presented by the Supreme Personality of God himself. Only from Vedic knowledge can we understand the actual position of the Absolute Truth, who, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is manifested in three features, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and at last, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This knowledge is perfect from time immemorial, and the Brahmanika or Vaishnava culture depends on this principle eternally. One should therefore study the Vedas with faith, not only for one's personal knowledge, but for the sake of spreading this knowledge and these activities through real faith in the words of Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Vedas. The word Mangala, auspicious, in this verse is very significant. Srila Sridhar Swami quotes that to do what is good is to reject what is not good. It's called Mangala or auspicious. To do what is good means to accept everything which is favorable to the discharge of the devotional service, and to reject what is not good means to reject everything not favorable for discharging devotional service. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we accept this principle by rejecting four prohibited items, namely illicit sex life, intoxication, gambling, and flesh eating, and accepting the daily chanting of at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and daily meditation 3 times a day by chanting the Gayatri Mantra. In this way, one can keep his Brahmanica culture and spiritual strength intact. By following this principle of devotional service strictly, chanting 24 hours a day, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One makes positive progress in spiritual life and ultimately become completely fit to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Because the ultimate goal of studying or understanding the Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna. One who follows the Vedic principles are described above can from the very beginning see all the features of Lord Krishna, the absolute truth, very distinctly, as one can see his own face completely reflected in a clear mirror. The conclusion is, therefore, that a Brahmana does not become a Brahmana simply because he's a living entity or is born in a Brahminical family. He must possess all the qualities mentioned in the Shastras and practice the Brahminical principles in his life. Thus, he ultimately becomes a fully Krishna conscious person and can understand what Krishna is. How a devotee continuously sees Krishna face to face within his heart is described in the Brahma Samhita as follows. Primanjana Vijrita Bhakti Vilo Chanina Santa Sadaiva Ridayesu Vilo Kayanti Yam Swam Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govinda Adi Purusam Tamaham Bhajami. The devotee by development of pure love for Krishna, constantly see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Shama Sundar, within his heart. That is the perfectional stage of Brahminical culture. Hare Krishna.
Right. Okay,
Thank you very much.
explain something, give the essence.
Hare Krishna. It's a very long purport. It's like he described the whole process of devotional service and then emphasized the importance of rendering service to a Brahmana or a devotee or a Brahmana. And they also place emphasis, a clear definition of someone who is a true Brahmana, that's not just by birth or not in name only, but one has to be qualified to be a Brahmana by being conversant with the science of the knowledge of Krishna. And emphasis also based on the four regulative principles, chanting the Maha Mantra, and also emphasis based on to always remember Krishna. That to Mam Chayo Vyabhitarina Bhakti Yogena Sevati, Sarguna Samadhitya, Tam Brahma. So explaining that we should engage in devotional service and not failing in any circumstance. And through that means one can be qualified to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay,
Hare
on
Krishna.
this point about the Brahmanas by birth, that's that type of, strict caste system is kind of came from the British, but it's Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas become corrupt right away and establish this, so one should feed a Brahmana, so they, they're demanding, but they're not acting like Brahmanas. So we might not have that in our movement exactly by birth, but by spiritual birth, sometimes devotees think, well, I was initiated, I'm senior devotee, you have to serve me, if you don't serve me, you're making a Vaishnava aparad. I've seen these things happen. Not that you're a Sudra or you're born a Sudra or something, but I'm a senior devotee. Everyone has to listen to me. That's not how we judge seniors by time. It's by humility and a taste for chanting. But we respect every devotee. This basic idea of, I think every culture in the world, traditional, they have some kind of priestly class. But it's not always that you have to be born, you can be trained. Someone born in a Sudra, even Chandala, if he's trained and acts like a Brahmin, then he's a Brahmana. And someone is born in the highest Brahmin family, but he's a drunkard or meat eater or, a lazy bum, then he's not a Brahmana. He's a Mlacha. So if someone has been initiated for 100 years, 20 years, but he's still not respectful to devotees, he's proud, then he's not very advanced, he's not senior. If someone has been initiated for 1 or 2 years, but is very humble and always wants to serve the devotees. Okay, thank you. So,
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
yeah.
There is a point in this text. They mention that seeing Krishna face to face And at the same time, in other, the last paragraph mentioned how Krishna is within the heart. So what's the difference, and is it the same thing, or one is more superior to the other, or is it after you have seen Krishna face to face, then you will be able to see him within the heart? So please, I need a little bit of explanation.
Devotee advancement is judged by a taste for chanting, humility, Brahminical qualities that are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, and taste for the holy name, but respect, giving respect to all and not expecting anything in return. If a person is genuine like that, he'll get the most respect. He'll naturally get respect. And someone that thinks, I'm senior, you have to respect me, then that's demanding respect. He won't get respect. He may get obedience or something due to whatever social structure is there. But devotee is supposed to think of every other devotee as Prabhu. I am Dasa, but you are everyone else as Prabhu. But if everyone's thinking like that, then we have a very, Vaikuntha society. But if everyone's thinking, I am Prabhu, I am the master, that's why this idea that calling all the men Prabhu is not a good idea, because Prabhu really means master. It doesn't mean man at all. There's nowhere in any Sanskrit where the word Prabhu means a male body, a gender. It refers to the master. It's even the name of Krishna. So somehow or other, ISKCON, we've twisted Sanskrit. And Mataji means mother, respected mother. So Mataji, it should be a term of great respect. It doesn't just mean a female body and females are inferior. It should be submissive to the men who are Prabhus. This is really kind of in one sense, it's a disaster, but it's become so deeply ingrained, it's very hard to change it. Okay. 43.
Yes, Prabhu.
This
Yes.
is now Prithu Maharaj's humbleness.
Yes, Maharaj. So I will read 43. Okay, so 43. Oh, my internet. 421, 43.
Who's
Okay.
going to read?
I will read, Maharaj. All respectable personality present here, I beg the blessing of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown, the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmana and Vaishnavas, until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually develop all good and desirable qualities. Purport. It is said that one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means unflinching faith in the Vaishnava or pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, develops all the good qualities of the demigods. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati akichana sarvai gunai satara samasati suraha. Bhagavatam 5.18-12. Prahlad Maharaj also said, Naisham mati tava uru krama grim. Bhagavatam 7.5-32. Unless one takes the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava on one's head, one cannot understand what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. Unless one knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's life remains imperfect. A great soul who has fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, after understanding Him fully and after repeatedly undergoing austerities and penances for many, many lives, is very rare. The crown of a king is simply a big load if the king or head of the state does not actually bear the dust of the lotus feet of the Brahmana and Vaishnavas. In other words, if a liberal king like Prithu Maharaj does not follow the instruction of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, or does not follow the Brahmanical culture, is simply a burden on the state, for he cannot benefit the citizens. Maharaprithu is the perfect example of an ideal chief executive. Hare Krishna. So it's very, very important here. Also, continue the importance of the association of pure devotees of Vaishnavas. Prabhupada quoted very wonderful verses about how one develop all good qualities by having a friendship faith of Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada may say that it means that conflicting faith in Vaishnava or pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. That when the Prabhupada is explaining the popularity, when the verse say that one's have conflicting faith in Supreme Lord, it means that one have conflicting faith in Vaishnava and pure devotee of the Lord, which is very interesting. So one will develop all the good qualities of the demigods. And here, Prabhupada also quoted the Prahlad Maharaj, who said, well, unless one take the dust of the lotus feet of pure Vaishnava on one's head, one cannot understand the Supreme Lord. So this is also buttressing the point, the importance of worshiping the devotee, just like Prithu Maharaj also is here. He carried the dust of such Brahmana and Vaishnava who he has described their greatness and qualities in the previous verses. He put that on their crown until the end of his life. So it's very, very wonderful. So to note that by serving the devotee or by worshiping the devotee, by serving the lotus feet of the devotee, one can develop these great qualities, and one can attain perfection of life by developing this great quality by having faith in the Supreme Lord. So there's a story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Kalidas, who have such faith in Vaishnavas, and he will buy fruit or mango as fruit to the Vaishnavas, and they will hide. And then when the Vaishnavas finish taking, then he will go and take the remnant. He has such faith, just like Prithu Maharaj describing the greatness of Vaishnava and Brahmana. He has strong faith in Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord like that. So he was doing that. So when he got to Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Prabhu, he does not allow anyone to take the water that washes his feet when he's going to the temple. But when Kalidas got to Jagannath Puri, he allowed him to, when the Govindra wanted to stop him, the Lord said he should allow him to take. And after taking 2 times, the Lord said it's enough. You show how personally the Lord granted his wish, his desire, just because he has strong faith in serving the devotees of the Lord. So the Lord is pleased with one who have strong faith, like Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. The Lord is pleased if we have strong faith in the Vaishnava and pure devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Asana Prabhu, we want to read the next verse. Brahma, you want to say something?
No.
Next, 44. Whoever acquires the Brahmanical qualifications, whose only worth is good behavior, who is grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. Peppered by his divine grace, the Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped with the prayer, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitayacha. Thus, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead respects and protects the Brahmanas and Brahmanical culture, as well as the cows. In other words, whereas there are Brahmanas and Brahmanical culture, there are cows and cow protection. In a society or civilization in which there are no Brahmanas or Brahmanical culture, cows are treated as ordinary animals and slaughtered at the sacrifice of human civilization. The specific mention of the word by is significant because the Lord is always associated with cows and his devotees. In pictures, Lord Krishna is always seen with cows and his associates, such as the cowherd boys and the gopis. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be alone. Therefore, Vitu Maharaj said, Sanu Charas Cha, indicating that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always associated with his followers and devotees. A devotee acquires the good qualities of the demigods. He is Guna Yanam, the reservoir of all good qualities. His only asset is good behavior, and he is grateful. Gratitude for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of the qualities of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Everyone should feel grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is maintaining all living entities and supplying all their necessities. As stated in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad 2:13. Eko Bahudam Yo Vidadati Ikaman. The Supreme One is supplying all necessities to the living entities. The living entity, who is therefore grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is certainly qualified with good characteristics. The word Vedashrayam is very significant in this verse. Veda refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. There are two kinds of old men: he who is advanced in years and he who is experienced in knowledge. One who is advanced in knowledge is actually Vrida, Jnana Vrida. One does not become Vrida simply by advancing in age. Vrida Shraya, a person who takes shelter of a superior person who is advanced in knowledge, can acquire all the good qualities of the Brahmanas and be trained in good behavior. When one actually attains good qualities, becomes grateful for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, he is endowed with all opulence. Such a person is a Brahmana or Vaishnava. Therefore, Vitu Maharaj invokes the blessings and mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his associates, devotees, Vaishnavas, Brahmanas, and cows. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Want to say something?
I'll just say one word. There's so much talk
Okay, go
now
on.
that this law of attraction and attracting prosperity, here's how to do it. If you have the wealth of good behavior, you're grateful and take shelter of experienced persons, you get all the opulence of the world. Of course, that may not mean money and gold and riches. It may mean just, friends and family. no anxiety. On any other comment?
Madam Prabhu, you want to say something?
The point I want to say is what Malak has stressed. See, this point has this verse and the proper stress on and then so being grateful. Everything is very, very, very important. As manners, we are by our good behavior, and the other side is to be very appreciative, be grateful for everything. Hare Krishna.
Okay, anybody notice
Prabhu.
how it mentions cows?
Yes. And here we could understand that the cows are one particular animal very dear to Krishna. So whatever good deed we do for cows, we can understand that Krishna is pleased. But the unfortunate situation of this our current world in Kali Yuga is that the cows are treated like just any other animals, and even as taken for food generally by various governments of this Kali Yuga. So I see our situation here is very lamentable, that our government officials don't understand anything at all about this world. They are enjoying the properties of Krishna and not knowing the desire of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so cow protection includes the bulls, and it really means using them, There's different ways we can use them if we can't actually use them for plowing. But the cow dung is very valuable for fertilizer. It's the best. And we're supposed to be growing our own food, so if we use a lot of cow dung in our garden, we can grow much more and much better quality. That way we can engage the bulls and cows. And there's many, many places throughout Prabhupada's words, Brahminical culture and cow protection. Brahminical culture is cow protection. It's not just, that I'm a Brahmana and everyone should serve me, and I'll do the yajna and everyone should feed me and give me donations. It means that the cows are protected. They're loved, they're cared for like children. Okay? So
Thank you,
far,
Mara.
so good.
We have 7 verses to finish this chapter. Madhava Prabhu, you want Kamalash Prabhu, you want to read verse 45?
Okay.
45 and 46.
45 and 46. Okay. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pritaloka, the Brahmanas and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. Purpose. When a person speaks very nicely at a meeting, he is congratulated by the audience who express their goodwill with the word sadhu, sadhu. This is called sadhu vada. All the saintly persons, Peters, denizens of Pritaloka, and demigods who were present at the meeting and heard Prithu Maharaj express their goodwill with the word sadhu, sadhu. They all accepted the good mission of Prithu Maharaj and they were fully satisfied. Text 46. They all declared that the very conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the cause of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Maharaj Prithu. Purport. According to the Vedic version, there is a hellish planet called Put, and one who delivers a person from there is called Putra. The purpose of marriage, therefore, is to have a Putra, a son who is able to deliver his father, even if the father falls down to the hellish condition of Put. Maharaj Prithu's father Vena was a most sinful person and was therefore caused to death by the Brahmanas. Now, all the great saintly persons, sages, and Brahmanas present in the meeting, after hearing from Maharaj Prithu about his great mission in life, became convinced that the statement of the Vedas had been fully proved. The purpose of accepting a wife in religious marriage as sanctioned in the Vedas is to have a putra, a son qualified to deliver his father from the darkest region of hellish life. Marriage is not intended for sense gratification, but for getting a son fully qualified to deliver his father. But if a son is raised to become an unqualified demon, how can he deliver his father from hellish life? It is therefore the duty of a father to become a Vaishnava and raise his children to become Vaishnavas. Then, even if by chance the father falls into hellish life in his next birth, such a son can deliver him, as Maharaj Prithu delivered his father. Hare Krishna.
You see anything?
Yes. So here we see how Prabhupada explained the importance of the Grihastha Ashram. The essence is not just sense gratification; is to have a son who can stand to deliver a father who incidentally may fall into the hellish planet known as Put. And then the son who is a Vaishnava, who the father must train to be a Vaishnava, can automatically have the ability to deliver the father. That is the real essence of having a son, engaging in matrimonial life, so that a son who is able to deliver the father from the hellish planet known as Put automatically becomes a Putra. Otherwise, if a son is not able to deliver the father from the hellish planet known as Put, instead of being called a Putra, he's being called Mutra, urine. Hare Krishna.
Mara, you want to say anything?
Well, yeah. Actually, a daughter can do the yajnas also if there's no son. Like I heard in Vrindavan, they think you have to have a son or you're not going to go heaven. And sometimes they can't afford any children, but they keep having children and they have daughters, and then they don't care about the daughter. They don't want to take care of them. They just want to get a son. That's not very good. It's not, but that's the general idea, because the son, if there is a son and a daughter, the son will do the yajnas, but the daughter can also do it. And especially if you have a devotee child or disciples, that's automatic. They don't have to do any extra yajnas. We do that for social, uh, compatibility, not to make a disturbance with people that think we have to. But if one is a practicing Vaishnava, if your child is a practicing Vaishnava, then you have the highest benediction possible. That child doesn't have to do all kinds of extra yajnas. All right? Because
Yes,
just being a
Maharaj.
devotee is way beyond any other yogya.
Madhava Prabhu, are you there? Talika Prabhu is there?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, please, you can read text 47, Prabhu.
Okay. Similarly, Hiranyakasipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of God, had entered into the darkest region of hellish life. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, he also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada's purpose. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered benediction by Narasimha Dev due to his great devotion and tolerance, he refused to accept any benediction from the Lord, thinking that such acceptance was not befitting a sincere devotee. The rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in expectation of a good reward is deprecated by Prahlad Maharaj as mercantile business. Because Prahlad Maharaj was a Vaishnava, he did not ask a benediction for his personal self, but was very affectionate towards his father. Although his father tortured him and would have killed him had he himself not been killed by the Supreme Personality of God, Prahlad Maharaj begged pardon. This favor was delivered from the darkest region of hellish life, and he returned back home, back to God by the grace of his son. Prahlad Maharaj is the topmost example of a Vaishnava who is always compassionate towards sinful persons suffering a hellish life within this material world. Krishna is therefore known as Paradukha Dukhi, Kripa Buddhi, or one who is compassionate towards others, suffering, and who is an ocean of mercy. Like Prahlad Maharaj, all pure devotees of the Lord come to this material world with full compassion to deliver the sinful. They undergo all kinds of tribulations, suffering, them with tolerance, because that is another qualification of a Vaishnava, who tries to deliver all sinful persons from the hellish condition of material existence. Vaishnavas are therefore offered the following prayers. Vancha karpata rubhyascha kripa sundubhyas evascha patitanam pava ashnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. The chief concern of a Vaishnava is to deliver the fallen souls. Hare Krishna. That is the end of the purport. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
We are hearing Prabhu. You can say something about the verse and purport.
Okay, the particular verse in context here is talking about the nature of pure devotees. Proper text of the we're reading is describing how Prahlad Maharaj exhibited the quality of a Vaishnava, and being a qualified Vaishnava was able to deliver his father, exemplifying the primary purpose or duty of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is compassionate its primary goal is to see that every conditioned soul are delivered. And even when the lunatics are inimical, the Vaishnava does not take offense. He extends the mercy of a Vaishnava is beyond whatever offenses that can be committed by sinful or demonic or. In this case, Prahlad Maharaj's own father was against him and was even ready to kill him. Because in the nature, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, because Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee, he exhibited the highest quality of a Vaishnava, which is that of a compassion for the fallen. And although Prahlad Maharaj was to be benedicted by the Lord himself, he exhibited another quality of a Vaishnava, that a Vaishnava does not want anything for himself. Rather, he wants to see everyone happy. A Vaishnava is not selfish. So Prahlad Maharaj also expresses that, and he says, according to the Prabhupada in the purport, that he who tries to get benediction or reward from the Lord is a business person, is a businessman, is engaging in business, is not serving the Lord. So this is another qualification of a devotee. That a devotee is not a businessman. He simply wants to serve, which confirms what was said in the earlier part of the Bhagavatam. Sarvam Pumcham Parodamo Bhakti Adoksha. Ahaituki Apratyatam Yayatma Suprasidati. The devotee of the Lord, their devotion is unmotivated, uninterrupted. So Prahlad Maharaj exhibited that. Even though by his wonderful devotional service, he was to be benedicted by the Lord. But he sees himself serving the Lord not for any gain. And if there is any reasoning that the Lord wants to benedict him, if the Lord finds him worthy of benediction, then he seeks that benediction for those who are sinful. And in this case, his father was a very prominent one. So these are some of the qualities of a Vaishnava. Quoted the famous Vaishnava prayers, describing the qualifications, these qualities of a Vaishnava, that their primary life centered around delivering the fallen soul. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Madhava Prabhu, are you there? Please, can you read that 48? Madhava Prabhu?
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu,
Okay.
please, 48.
Okay. Translation. All the saintly Brahmanas thus addressed Prithu Maharaj. O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. Prithu Maharaj was blessed by the saintly person present at the meeting to have a long life because of his unflinching faith and his devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although one's duration of life is limited in years, if by chance one becomes a devotee, he surpasses the duration prescribed for his life. Indeed, sometimes yogis die according to their wish, not according to the laws of material nature. Another feature of a devotee is that he lives forever because of his infallible devotion to the Lord. It is said, Katayasya sa jivati, one who leaves a good reputation behind him lives forever. Specifically, one who is reputed as a devotee of the Lord undoubtedly lives forever. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking with Ramananda Raya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, "What is the greatest reputation?" Ramananda Raya replied that a person who is reputed as a great devotee has the greatest reputation. For a devotee not only lives forever in the Vaikuntha planets, but by his reputation, he also lives forever within this material world. Hare Krishna.
Now, want to say something?
No, we
Go
just
ahead.
have a couple minutes. So somebody give a summary what we read today. Just a few points that you pick out.
Maharaj, that the highest worship is to worship to serve the devotees, Vaishnava, Brahmanas, to worship them, and to be very, very careful not to offend Vaishnava, Brahmanas, but that can ruin our spiritual life and everything.
And what can
So,
help our spiritual life?
Maharaj,
Yeah, and what can help our spiritual life and advance and be the most advantageous?
Association of pure devotees.
by developing good quality devotees, yeah.
And avoiding Vaishnava offenses.
Yeah, and
Avoiding Vaishnava offenses.
Observing the four regulative principles and chanting the Maha Mantra.
and serving devotees, serving the Brahmanas, serving the devotees, positive action, the opposite of the offenses. That's stressed. Gratitude is mentioned.
Yes, Maharaj.
Gratitude is not a noun. Like Bhakti Tirtha said, love is not a noun, it's a verb. Gratitude is a verb. It means action, not just words. Reciprocation, payback, debt. Someone gives you something, helps you in any way, and we're indebted. All right, so thank you all very much.
Yes.
This chapter is almost
Very much,
finished.
Maharaj.
Then we get to the instructions that the four Kumaras gave to Prithu Maharaj. Here he's telling his citizens, but he's also taking instruction in a very humble, perfect example. All right, Gauranga.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. Mancha kapata village check pass in the village. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
His Holiness Abdullah Maharaj ki jai.
Yeah.
Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Hari
Hare 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 Bo.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna.
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama.
I'm going to. I'm ending it. Hari. Thank you.
Chant happy. Everybody should chant.